Hello，你好，欢迎回来，Welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger and
Kitten!
Kitten has some Taiwanese food for lunch.
Delicious!
That's why she is all hyper. We got the heater on because it is a bit of a cold day, so hopefully the hum is not too distracting. The date is September 27, 2023, and I've been wanting to do this episode for a while because we have a princess here. And we all know that the only thing princesses are good for is to be fed to dinosaurs.
No way!
Where's my dinosaur?
No way!
Anyway, so we're going to talk about the unfortunate love life of Chinese princesses. Um, a lot of people, a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of girls, but I mean, nowadays gender is such a fluid thing. So maybe there are boys who grow up wanting, wish they were princesses as well. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, if that's your thing, that's your thing. If you are a guy and you always grew up and you want to be a princess, that's fine. Um, so um, a lot of people get this idea that princesses lived in a big, beautiful castle, which was true, and princesses could get everything they wanted, which kind of was true, and that princesses were beautiful and happy people. Unfortunately, I mean, while the beautiful part might be true, but even that is heavily debatable. Uh, I've spoken about this in the past. If you guys don't look at the uh his history drama, don't look at the movies, but if you actually look at some of the old photos, yeah, back in the 1800s, early 1900s, there were photos, and some of the photos of the Chinese royal family, the queens, the princesses, and the thousands of wives of the emperors. There are some old photos of those. You guys can Google and find those. If you look at them, they look horrible. Like, they're not what you guys see in movies, because in movies and even in artwork, they try to beautify royal family to make them look more tall, more slender, more muscular, uh, more godlike and goddesses like. But in reality, when you think about it, if a princess grow up in a palace and her whole life is basically eating and sleeping, she's not allowed to go out, and she's not allowed to do anything physical or something detrimental to her health. You can imagine probably most princesses were not these slender, beautiful creatures people envision. But even more so than that, we are not going to criticize them too much on their appearance because each to their own, uh, and they didn't really have a choice. Not like they could take out a membership and go to the gym every day. Um, what's more shocking to a lot of people, it's like a shocking reality check, is how unhappy it would be to be a princess. Uh, First of all, I think most of you guys who watched the second animated Mulan movie know that princesses get married out as political game pieces. And this was really true. Not every princess, that I'll tell you, it's not everyone, only the beautiful one. Right? If you're but ugly, then the other kingdoms they don't want you either. But if you were really beautiful and if you were really talented and really smart, most likely, especially if your country was not doing very good, then you would get married to not just someone that you didn't know. You would get married to a race of people into a different culture that you never knew. Like for example, during the Han Dynasty, before the northern nomads were pushed back by some of the famous Chinese generals of the time, before Chinese people started gaining an advantage on the battlefield, a lot of the Han princesses were sent north to be married to the sons of some of these nomad lords and leaders. And just imagine this for 1 second. You are a Han Chinese princess. You live in a Han Chinese palace your whole life. You are 14 years old. You are used to people get you food whenever you want food. You're used to being able to take a bath every day. You're used to people speaking your language and listen and obey you. Tomorrow, suddenly your father, the emperor, say you are going to go marry the second son of a nomad lord, and you are going to be his wife number 50. So you get sent thousands of miles away from home. You're in a completely different country, basically. You don't speak their language. They can beat you every day, and you have no choice but to sleep with this total stranger who doesn't even take a bath once a year. Horrible, right? I mean, yeah, kittens still want to be a princess? um, So yeah, being a princess, this was number one issue, number one very traumatic problem with being princesses is whenever your country is not doing so good, you get sent off as a to marry someone from completely different culture and you had no say in the matter, even if you were already betrothed to somebody, even if you already had a lover, even if you already had someone you loved. Nope, sorry. The duty of being a princess is to serve your country. Right? So that's number one. Number two. Okay, so we already established not that doesn't happen to every princess. Uh, if your country is doing really good, then that wouldn't happen to you. If you happen to be kind of ugly, then that probably wouldn't happen to you either. So some people will say, okay, so that that's still okay, you know. If that doesn't happen to you, then you can have a good time being a princess, right? You can do whatever you like. Well, yeah, yes and no. Unfortunately, most princesses' love life was still kind of unfortunate, and the biggest reason for that was that they had too much power. Was that they had too much power? Uh, why do I say that? Most people know that a successful relationship, successful marriage, is built on both couple having equal say in the matter, equal power, equal control. But when you marry a princess, that is not the case. So I know that in stories and movies and video games and all that stuff, we grow up thinking that everybody want to marry a princess. But the fact of the matter is, throughout Chinese history, a lot of people rather die than marry a princess. Because marrying a princess was not like getting a wife. Marrying a princess was like getting a god in your household. You can't yell at her. You can't say no. You can't defy her any of her wishes. If she wake up with PMS, she talk to the king and the king have your head chopped off.
Oh.
You know, I'm not even making this up. Okay, let's look at some of the classic examples of there's too much power, making the princess's love life really bad. In the Tang Dynasty, during the rule of the female empress Wu Zixing, Wu Zixing has a daughter called Taiping Gongzhu, that means peaceful princess. Sound pretty, right?
Yeah.
Peaceful princess. Okay, well, peaceful princess didn't get married off to anybody because, well, honestly, peaceful princess wasn't very good looking. Um, peaceful princess was also kind of bossy and capricious and uh, a little bit obnoxious. Um, kind of had a bit of a reputation, just wanted to sleep with whoever she felt like.
Oh no.
Um, but because she the empress's favorite daughter, so one day the princess, peaceful princess, was out and about, and she saw one of the royal guards, and she fell in love with him. That's great, but he's not in love with her. In fact, he already has a wife.
Oh.
He's already married. Well, that did not matter to Princess Peaceful. Princess Peaceful went to the Empress Wu Zixing and said, I desire this royal guard. So the Empress Wu Zixing sent the royal matchmaker to go talk to this guy, to talk to this royal guard, and say, hey, uh, the princess want to marry you, so get ready. The royal guard was like dumbfounded. He like, well, can you go tell the empress that I'm happily married? I have wife and kid. I can't. And the royal matchmaker said to the royal guard, I can do that, but you wouldn't like the result. So
No.
I highly suggest that you just obey. You're a royal guard. You're supposed to obey. Well, the guy said, no, no, my wife and I, we've been together for like 20 years. We have children. We can't do this. The royal matchmaker shrugged his shoulder, went back to the empress, said, he's already married and he got kids. And the empress said, well, that's pretty simple. Kill his family.
Oh my god.
The next day, the royal the royal guards descended upon this guy's household and basically slaughtered his whole family. And kicking and screaming, he was dragged into the palace to get married with Princess Peaceful. That marriage didn't last very long because the guy committed suicide shortly after.
Oh. Oh my
So
god.
you can imagine with things like that going on, most people did not want to get involved with princesses. Uh, Another similar but slightly better situation we can draw from the Song Dynasty. There was a very famous general who was fantastic on the battlefield, a hero, a war hero, and then he again one of the princesses fell in love with him and went to the emperor and said, I want the general. And emperor went to the general, said, the princess desired you, so you have to serve your country. The general abandoned his military rank, he abandoned his post, took his family, left the kingdom in the middle of the night.
Oh my goodness.
Wouldn't put up with it. So, yeah, being a princess had a lot of power, but this power translates to no one want to deal with you. No one wanted to marry you because it's just too much. You can't do anything about it. So that's number two. Number three, being a princess also means that whenever your country is on the verge of losing a war, you are probably the first one that's going to get killed.
Oh no.
And the person that's killing you won't be the enemy, it's going to be your parents. Chinese emperors and empresses, queens and kings have this long-standing tradition. If they know that they're losing the war and the palace is going to fall to the hand of the enemy, they're going to either mangle, disfigure, or outright kill the princesses because they don't want the princesses being pillaged and raped and all that stuff and bring shame to the family. Um, a classic example in that was at the last emperor of the Ming dynasty. At the last emperor of the Ming dynasty, when the Manchu people uh, took over and built the Qing dynasty. That was slightly after, but at the end of the Ming dynasty, the dynasty actually fell to the hand of one of its own general, General Li, who is actually quite infamous in Chinese history. He's like the guy who uh, basically messed up the Chinese emperor leadership, and China fell into the hand of the Manchu people. So anyway, General Li and his forces rebelled and went against the Ming Emperor, and they stormed the palace. On the last day of the war, when the Ming Emperor knew that they were going to lose, he called his wife and his daughters to his side. They had a good feast together, and then in the middle of the freaking dinner, the Ming Emperor pulled out his sword and killed his wife and killed his two daughters, and the last daughter was going to be killed, but because at the last minute she put up her arm to block the sword, and it cut off her arm. And the emperor decided, okay, well, you are crippled, so you don't have to die. No one's going to want you. So that's the only way for the last princess of the Ming Dynasty to have survived was to lose one arm to her dad. This princess actually ended up living quite a long life and uh, became a bit of a folk hero in a lot of martial art movies and classic tales. For people call her the one-armed princess or the one-armed uh, kung fu goddess of the last princess of the Ming Dynasty. So there's a lot of legend around her, but the fact of the matter was. The only reason she wasn't killed by her dad was she lost an arm. So being a princess kind of sucks. That whenever your country is losing the war, your parents try to murder you. Last but not least, and this one you guys probably would never have imagined, uh, being a princess, especially being a princess at the Ming Dynasty and the Qing Dynasty, means that you almost never get to see your husband. Yeah, the princess and the, their husband, they can't stay in one place. They can't live together. The princess supposed to have her own palace, and the consort supposed to have his own house. Uh, and whenever the princess and the consort need to, get together and do their thing, they need to go through the bureaucracy of talking to each other's uh, uh, royal guards and servants and get these all arranged. Now, sounds simple, right? I mean, you would think that being you being a princess, if you want to see your consort, if you feel like you need to get it on, then you tell your servant, go fetch my husband, and that's that. But no, during the Ming and Qing dynasty, a lot of princesses end up with depression and die early because
Oh.
their servants would scheme to prevent them from seeing their husband. For example, in the Qing dynasty, there was during the reign of Emperor Qianlong, there was a princess who was newly married, and she did not see her husband for 5 years. And she sent letters to her husband demanding to see him. Most of these letters didn't even get to her husband because the servants threw them away.
Oh.
Finally, when she finally got a hold of her husband, said, "How come you don't come see me?" Her husband said, "I've been trying to come see you. Every time I demand to see you, your door guard want me to pay 500 gold. I don't have that kind of money. So when I don't have the gold, they don't let me see you." The princess finally was so furious, she went to the emperor, Qianlong, and she talked to her dad. She said, "Look, I've been married for 5 years. I'm still a virgin
Oh.
because the guards won't let my husband in, and they keep throwing away my letter. You need to do something about this." And it took a royal decree from the emperor. From this day on, whoever prevent my daughter meeting her husband is going to be executed.
Oh.
It took that for them to finally be able to get together and do their thing. So yeah, you see, being a princess was hard business. Like it was not fun. Being a princess, no matter if it's because you got too much power or because you are just a political game piece for your parents, or that you have servants and guards that constantly mess in your personal affair, it just wasn't easy. Before we go, being the princess, the Mandarin word for princess is 公主，公主，
Gongju.
公主. So being a 公主 was very difficult. Thank you for checking out today's episode. I don't know how relevant it is for anybody, but if you have always wanted to be a princess, then maybe you want to think again. For now, 谢谢 and